Hello and welcome to this discussion on Assam elections at The Wire. As you know, the Assam is going for the assembly elections in a three-phased manner, starting from March 27th, ending on April 6th. So, to take this discussion forward, I have with me Sushanto Talukdar, a Guwahati-based senior political commentator and also the founder of a very interesting magazine on the region called Nezain.com, and also the former Northeast correspondent of The Hindu. So, welcome to this discussion, Sushanto. To begin with, I want to ask you something that we have been seeing in the national media also, a bit of discussion on whether there is any particular narrative in these Assam elections, because Sarbananda Sonowal is seeking a re-election. And in December 2020, we saw at what state the state of Assam was. So much of anti-CAA protest, and it took a violent turn, and Guwahati almost looked like a war zone. And then we saw so many of these arrests that had happened, killings that had happened, and anti-CAA activist Akhil Gogoi is still in jail. So how do you see this panning out in the Assam elections? Do you think it is there, this narrative is strong on the ground, or is there any other narrative that you have seen?
I think the anti-Khan narrative is there, and it is one of the narratives, but I don't think it is the sole narrative there. And certainly it will have it will influence the poll conversation as well as among the electors, and also the narratives, because it will counter to the narrative being also pushed by the ruling alliance, and also the anti-Khan narrative is also being pushed by the opposition alliance, Grand Alliance, also by the new regional party. So it is there, it is there, but then I mean, how does it translate into the vote? That we will have to see, because we had elections in Assam in 2019. Even that was when it was protest against CAP, when it was still a bill.
Yes.
Even then the protest was vigorous. I mean, it was spread across the state. And then in 2019, finally the BJP got more seats. So their confidence stems from this this perception. And but then going by the narrative the ruling alliance is trying to build up, and then that they are talking about the civilization, some narrative
culture.
like
I see also Sanskriti.
Sanskriti, yeah, they're like 35+%. Also, they just want to polarize it on the religious line. So and they're good at perception, no, creating perception. So they're trying to neutralize the anti-Khan narrative with the apprehension and fear, and more particularly in the first phase of elections, where the SMEs and the other indigenous voters, they decide a lot of many seats there. So I think it is one of the narratives, but then other narratives are being about the price rise, unemployment. So I think it will be a mix. I mean, we cannot say the car is going to be the deciding narrative, and but then certainly we cannot say that. I mean, we cannot downplay the anti-Khan narrative in Assam.
Particularly in the first phase, isn't it? I mean, where the actually the majority of the seats are in Upper Assam.
Yeah.
Now, very interestingly, we are seeing that three-phase elections are also dividing the Assam into three parts.
True.
Yeah.
True. And in the first part, even the anti-Khan narrative will be there even in the other two phases also.
Okay. Yeah.
But then probably there are maybe, I mean, we'll have to look at the electioneering. They might the NRC factor may again emerge, because it is, although it's not being utilized. But then apart from that, the other issues like the wages of tea garden workers.
Correct, yeah.
No, and and on top of that, the price rise and unemployment. These are
And
also
so
complementing.
yeah, that's very interesting. What you mentioned is about the tea tribes, the Adivasi vote is also a major factor in a lot of constituencies,
Right.
not just in Upper Assam, but also in the Barak also. There
Yeah.
are about
Yes.
5 or 6
Yeah, even in
constituencies
North
where
Assam, right.
so that will also be affected, yeah. So that means this wage thing, I mean, like the promise actually by the BJP
True.
in 2016 elections that they would be raising their minimum wage to a certain level, which
351. They promised 351, and they raised only 30 rupees. And only at the last cabinet meeting, they decided to increase it by 50 rupees. But then the issue is now stuck up in the court. So the workers are still being
So
paid
that means
at 167.
that means workers have not been able to get
No.
the benefit, the recent hike.
No.
Not
That
been
they are still getting 167, and there is an arithmetic that shows that that not just the promise was not kept, but then the claim that under the Sabagisa Dhan Puraskar Mela by the government there, they transferred 8,000 rupees over a period of 3 years. But then had the entire wage as
been
the promise
hiked.
would have been paid 351, they would have got I mean the difference is about more than 1.55 lakhs.
Oh,
So
each laborer.
each garden worker, they would have got so they have lost 1,55,000, and they are being given only 8,000 rupees.
Okay.
So that the claim that when the garden workers have been benefited in through this cash transfer, how far it is accepted, that we have to watch for the outcome of the poll.
Yeah.
And that's why where the wage has become a major poll plank. And the Grand Alliance by the Congress.
Yeah. We'll come to that, because we all have also seen, all these footage coming from Assam of Congress, senior Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi, interacting with the tea garden workers. And but another question I want to bring you to is also about the novelty factor in these elections is also the formation of two political parties, two regional political parties, the AJP and the Raijod RD.
True.
So we already have an AGP, Assam Gana Parishad, which is the part of the ruling alliance.
True.
And these two political parties have come basically on the plank of opposition to the CAA.
Right.
Okay. So how do you see this panning out in the coming elections, and whether they will be able to form, I mean, like they have been able to do any dent to the, ruling party's vote base? That is one thing. And the other thing is, do you think, it is already a crowded space? Because Assam, of course, elections always has this, the regional thing factor has always been there, a presence. But now we have three political parties. So, and one is with the ruling alliance, the other two are opposed to it. How do you see this panning out?
Their presence has made a difference in the overall electoral scenario. Because I think they are desertion of some of the leaders, AGP leaders,
okay.
to the AGP, also to the
even at the cadre level also.
Even at cadre level, but that we cannot say. I mean, there was initially it was thought that it will be desertion will be very quick, and then finally they will be shifting over to the AJP. So that hasn't happened. I mean, the AGP still has a strong support base, and then, but then some of the leaders have already shifted to the AJP. So, and because when we already seen, or we have perceived that the anti-Ka is going to be a narrative. I mean, we cannot discount that. So rise of the new regional parties, we cannot rule out. But yes, electoral politics is again in a game of number. I mean, its poll arithmetic has to be correct, and then you also have to have your election machinery, you have to have build up your organization. So
For that, they didn't get much time.
They didn't get much time, and then so we will have to how they perform. It's not clear, but then one thing is that they have not been able to reach a consensus on putting up a single candidate from the
Correct.
constituencies.
Yes.
So that has sent a confusion because I mean they forced the alliance because they initially there was a clamor for a single regional party or that they should all come together to oppose Ka, no, and that was being carried. That didn't finally happen, and of course there was no scope of that happening. I mean, but then they tried to force an electoral alliance, but that also didn't. I mean, it appears that they couldn't reach a consensus on fielding a single candidate from the constituencies. That probably will adversely affect the prospects against their aspirations. So
this is interesting because I've mentioned about the two regional parties that have recently formed. There's of course a smaller one that has also been formed, that of the Ajit Bhuiya's faction, that Gana Morcha, which has gone and joined the
Grand Alliance.
Grand Alliance. Okay, so but before coming to talk about the Grand Alliance, I would quickly want to ask you also about AJP leader, who's a former ASU General Secretary, is quit the ASU, a powerful organization. And then I'm talking about Lurin Jyoti Gogoi. He's contesting from two constituencies in Upper Assam, Naharkatia and Duliajan. So does it also say that, that he himself is perhaps not so sure about, the prospect of his new party, and the other thing is also we saw a similar thing with Akhil Gogoi too, that he wanted to contest from Sibsagar and Mariani, and suddenly he is got out of the Mariani fight and he's now contesting only from Sibsagar. So are we then seeing a little flip-flop towards the end, are we seeing that, and does that reflect that they themselves are a bit, in this whole sphere of, they're not sure about, how the people are going to respond to their call?
I believe it's also, they are also testing the water. Because they have not just this election in mind, they have also the coming elections, the Lok Sabha elections, then also the 2026 elections. All these are in their mind. So I believe they are trying to utilize the elections to spread out their organization. So they are not trying to leave the ground to other organization, one party or the other party. So that's how they are contesting. But then they being very new party, organizationally not that strong, so they are looking at this way, and then there is also the question of aligning like there was a confusion about initially they said that they'll be maintaining equidistance from the national political parties and the AIUDF and the BJP. But then finally there was that difference was there between AGP and Rai Jodal. So then Rai Jodal decided, tried to push for the pro-Congress or anti-BJP, not pro-Congress, but the anti-BJP votes, consolidation of the anti-BJP votes, and that's where there was a difference between the two regional parties. But then that is also not being properly understood, because there are some constituencies where they have ended up fighting the Grand Alliance candidates.
Correct.
So these things are not clear. There is one perception in the both ruling alliance and the opposition alliance, and the perception is that if there are the opposition parties are not united against the BJP, then the votes that may be garnered in the name of the opposition to the Ka might be divided.
Correct. Yeah.
But I look at it in from different other perspective. Like the anti-Ka movement was never united. And even when there was movement against the CAB, and people on the side of the ruling alliance, they opposed the movement and then voted for
the party. Yes.
So that the regional force that was never with the Congress. So to derive at a simplistic conclusion that the entire Ka vote is united or was united before, and then the parties jumping into the fray is going to divide it. It's not correct.
Correct.
They were never united, because in Assam, although the movement was there, there was agreement on the question of opposing the act or the bill, but then there was never there was not a united movement. The ASU and AJYCP, and they were
on one side.
Or the KMSS, which has floated the Raja Dal, they had a different movement. And then Congress and all fought for it separately.
Various pockets.
Yeah.
So obviously some amount of reflection of that, the difference within the movement will be seen.
Yeah.
In
if we, I mean, going by that Ka votes will be divided, and that's not going to harm the ruling alliance. That will be a wrong conclusion, I believe that. And even the AJP might cause erosion, and that is they are already causing a dent to some extent. I mean, I'm not trying to justify, trying to be judgmental that erosion is too big to unseat them or cause electoral defeats and all. But then they are causing erosion, and that AJP's influence will primarily cut into the votes of the ruling alliance. That's my reading.
Okay, interesting. So let's come to talking about the Mahajot, led by Congress, and the way we are seeing is also the way the BJP, and starting from the Prime Minister himself and the Home Minister Amit Shah was going and to Assam for campaigns. Even Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, was seeing that they're all attacking the Congress for going with AIUDF. But the Congress's defense has been that why are you picking only one of the parties, and we are a Mahajot of so many parties.
True.
So why do you see that BJP is only going for the gunning for AIUDF? And just keeping the others aside, and that others also include the Boro People's Front, their former ally. So they're not touching anything there. So that is something I want to ask you about. Why are they particularly gunning for this, and what narrative are they trying to actually build in Assam when we are seeing that there is not a very strong single narrative at the moment, and there are multiple narratives. So that is one question. And then the other thing I want you to touch quickly is also, what do you think about the Congresses, the Mahajot, also of course it is led by Congress. So their campaign, people are already talking about the Congress's campaign, even within BJP circles.
Yeah, Congress campaign, because of they promised the 5 guarantees, that includes opposition to Ka. I mean, preventing implementation of Ka in Assam.
They are saying that if we get into power,
we will stop
we will issue a resolution or something within
just
the state
like Kerala has
assembly
has
already
done. So they promised that. They promised that 365 rupees ways to tea garden workers. Then they have talked about 5 lakhs employment to the unemployment, and then the employment portal they have
already launched. People are being asked to register for.
That's why I said that the unemployment and the price rise, that how it is being picking up by the alliance. So, and BJP, because they wants to pick up only AIUDF from the alliance, Grand Alliance, because they are trying to build up the narrative in their lexicon. That's what they did in the 2016 elections. They said that we will drive the infiltrators out, and by infiltrators they complemented with when they brought Ka. that all non-Muslim the migrants, including the Hindu, primarily the Hindu migrants from Bangladesh up to 2014, they are going to get citizenship.
Correct.
So they are singling out the post 71 Muslim the migrants whom they want to try the project it as a infiltrator in their lexicon.
Yeah.
And so they just want to build up that narrative, and they are saying that they have their population accounts for almost 35%. So they have come up with their own civilization, and the other civilization is, so they are just trying to polarize, use AODF as a tool, a weapon to demonize it, so that people get divided on the lines of the infiltrators versus the non-infiltrators, the Hindus versus Muslims.
So then it becomes a very easy narrative, isn't it? Because
yes,
this is what the BJP has been using in other states too. Communalizing an election, you know, to polarize. And then the other thing is, and then the related thing is, of course, are you a nationalist or an anti-national?
Yes, true. And then after the BPF joined the alliance, so that added a new dimension.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that diluted the campaign. So then BPF, even the BPF chief Hagrama Mohilari was sharing this with Congress, senior Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi in the election rally. So that has diluted the
weakened the BJP's
and then so just
narrative.
to revive that, initially what we discussed was that the narrative they are constantly trying to push this. I mean, minus Azmol on the AODF, that narrative will not hold. So they want to keep it till the election.
So what I understand is that the BJP is actually trying to set a narrative to its advantage where it is not being successful so far, because there are multiple narratives. And what comes across, you know, from the Congress's these 5-point promises is also that there are at least 5 narratives on the ground. That means, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So that brings me to this question about, you know, you already mentioned about BPF, the Bodo People's Front, ally of the ruling alliance of BJP. And I remember, you know, in the 2016 elections, the campaign was started by Modi in the Bodo areas, the BTC areas, and the Bodo Territorial Council area, and with the Hagrama Mohilari, the chief of BPF, by his side. And that was his, you know, that was the rally where he spoke about 3 Ds: development, development, development. That is what he's going to bring to the people. And now we see this gentleman on the other side of the fence. So how do you see this whole BPF thing panning out? And the other thing is also that I often hear in Assam, in the political observers circle and all, that suppose, you know, the BJP doesn't get the adequate numbers, okay, and if just short of just a few numbers, so will they may go and seek help from the BPF, and BPF may agree to it, because already the Bodo areas, the votes are, and like there is another party now, just competitor, the UPPL, and with UPPL the BJP is already in alliance in the Bodo Territorial Council areas, and even though BPF was the single largest party after the recent elections in the council. So will they be then negotiating to get back to the space that they earlier had after the 2016 elections? They were all in the government with this, in the Sonowal government with ministers. Then they were also holding the council, you know. So will they then try to negotiate? How do you see that?
I think I mean, if they, I mean, the BTC election, post-BTC election, BJP could have easily formed the government with the BPF.
Correct.
But they didn't. BPF emerged as the single largest party with 17 seats.
Correct.
But then they still decided to go ahead UPPL, because if they have alliance with BPF, BPF will never let they grow organizationally. So BJP wants a political space where they want to build up their organization within the BTR areas, Bodo and Territorial Region.
Now it is BTR.
Now it is BTR. So they want to, and they will be looking at the long-term organizational perspectives. So going with the BPF, that doesn't get
they don't get the
space. Whereas the alliance with the EPPL, they are getting that space. So if they have left 8 seats to the EPPL and they are contesting 4 seats. So in BTAD area, BJP building organization has, because of its demography and all, and it has a spilling effect in the overall state and other state as well. So it and we have seen in 2012 the conflicts, clashes that led to displacement of the people being in camps. So I think the efforts probably, yeah, the post election, I mean, I don't want to stick my neck out to claim that BPF is not going to side with the BJP and all. But then BJP, I believe, is not keen to share power with BPF anymore, because that doesn't give the space to grow politically. Because BPF will always try to have control over the BTAD area for its long-term political goal. Political ambitions.
Very interesting point, yeah. So that because that's what we also see, like how BJP. It's a typical. If you look at how the BJP is using its growth entire the strategy. Even in Assam too, it is it is actually piggybacking on the AGP, and now we see even the AGP in a very not in a very strong position.
BJP is pushing their own candidate in the AGP.
AGP areas.
Like it's like the candidates coming and telling AGP the seats left by the AGP, candidates coming telling the AGP that I will contest as an AGP candidate, but my symbol will be BJP. So when the AGP didn't agree, they finally he quit, and then he joined the BJP.
So this is also going to pan out in the Boro areas and with the help of the UPPL. Yeah, point well taken. So I have 2 quick questions. One is on the Congress not projecting any chief ministerial candidate this time. I mean, like a lot of people have thought after the demise of Tarun Gogoi, maybe his son Gaurav Gogoi will contest from Titabar, the traditional seat of his father, but that didn't happen. And then we see a parallel narrative going on in Assam that who will become the BJP chief minister? Will it be Sonowal again, or will it be a new chief minister in the form of Himanta Biswa Sarma, who's been trying for that post, we all know, from the Congress's time. So do you see any kind of chief ministerial change if the BJP comes to power, or why do you think the Congress never thought of actually projecting maybe Gaurav Gogoi or somebody? They have a lot of actually interesting leaders, and a couple of them are MPs. Pradyut Bordoloi is one. Then we have the leader of the opposition in the state assembly, Devabrat Saikia, son of the former Assam Chief Minister Hiteswar Saikia. Then we also have Ripun Bora as the, if we at all you count the president of the state, Congress committee, also as a probable CM candidate. So quite it's a very crowded space. So how do you see this whole CM thing?
Yeah, because the names you have already taken for the Congress. So too many names.
Yes.
So Congress doesn't want to risk any camp politics before the elections. I think so. They just want to keep it postponed. I mean, if they are able to come to power, then they will again
take it ahead.
Take it ahead, because Congress did that one feature is that even when they are opposition, there are dissidents within the party. So they couldn't risk. I think that probably that's why the Congress central leadership, they thought that it's better to keep open and just go to the polls. Like when in 2001, when the Congress returned to power, that time also they didn't have any projections. I mean, they fought as a party. So that is there. But then, BJP, yes, it's clear. I mean, 2 camps, 2 power centers. Now the issue of chief minister, although they have clarified that parliamentary board will take a decision. I mean, and then they say that. While in opposition, they project into chief ministerial candidate, and then when in the ruling, as a ruling party, they go
sitting chief minister,
they don't project. But then the leaders coming for campaigning, taking Sonowal's names, and some other leaders saying that it will be a joint leadership, the state will flourish, when they are saying that development has picked up. Because the BJP also trying to push the development plank, development narrative, and So that the power center conflict has become more prominent in the election.
This elections,
This
yes.
elections.
So finally, I want to ask you about the Prime Minister Modi, who's been going to Assam quite frequently, and this time, of course, he is the major, the pole mascot of the BJP, so he has to be projected everywhere. So, do you see any Modi magic in these elections? Because people had talked about that in 2016, 2019. Also, a lot of people talked about Modi magic working on the ground. Do you see any Modi magic operating this time in the Assam elections?
I think that in the because they are not projecting any chief ministerial face, so they will have to, I mean, project a face, one party, one face. So Modi is the face for the BJP to vote. So because the campaign theme songs, there are campaign theme songs from the BJP like that, which they used during the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. The Modi government will come back. That
he was used
subject,
as
So that they still use. They are using it. So since they don't have a chief ministerial face, so they will try to use. But then yes, you're right. Then the amount of effort they had to put in mobilizing people, like really in Lakhimpur, they have invested so much of money and people taking people from far from Guwahati city and
there was an inquiry also, if I can mention, when the first Modi rally happened in Assam, there were not too many people, and the state government had actually set up a committee to look into the matter, which is quite interesting. Yeah.
And those rallies got mixed up with the official function, mixed up with the political rallies, election rallies, which is not actually not done. So
yes, he was on an official visit to the state.
Yeah, all these rallies, which
the first of the two visits.
First of the two visits, it is an official visit, and but then they combine the organization and the government, the presence of the people, and then we have to find out whether these the buses that carried also the BJP workers not related to the functions were paid by the government. These things have not come out in the public. But then, yes, that charisma is fading, but I will not say, I'll be wrong if that to completely discount his popularity. He still has attraction among a section of people, and that will help the party to some extent.
Okay.
And that's the reason why he is making frequent, they have high stakes among all the 5 states. BJP has high stakes in the Assam.
In Assam, yes.
And they are in power. Also, they are. I'm not going into the Bengal.
In this state, at least, they're trying to retain the power, and the others they're trying to grab power.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
the basic difference.
So that's why I think the final they will be dependent on the Modi's popularity to a great extent, and Modi has become a major face for the BJP in this election.
Okay. Thank you so much for this long discussion, but much needed, because there are so many questions, around this, and anything that happens in the Northeast is not without any complexities and, a long narrative.
True.
So, I think this long discussion is also part of this long narrative that we had to explain to our national, viewership. Thank you so much, Sushant Talukdar, for joining this discussion, and thank you so much for being part of this Wire discussion.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.